Hey guys, Foreboding Angel here. I wanted to show some of the things that I've been working on recently. This is mainly regarding effects and how to do them. For many of you who already know what you're doing with regards to CEGs, this probably won't be that interesting to you, but for some of the newer game devs, I kind of wanted to show a little bit of how I do the effects in Evo, because I get a lot of compliments, I guess, on Evo's effects and, you know, them looking good or whatnot. Well, one of the problems that I've had is the fact that my effects usage would obscure battles. So when you had a whole bunch of tanks fighting each other, it would be real hard to tell what was going on. And so I decided I was going to change that. And I created an entire slew of just a ton of generic effects that should be easily tailored to go into anybody's game. I just kind of want to show them off a little bit and show them in use and stuff in practical application, I guess. So here goes. Basically, I put them all under generic names. They should be pretty easy to follow, and they're also super easy to modify. The main one is generic shell explosion. It's basically the the generic shell explosions that are just generic shell explosion, small, medium, large. Those are all your typical, you know, orangey, like normal high explosive looking effect. The others that are colored are shown, like, for example, we have large red, large purple, blah blah blah. And you can make other colors really easy. I'll kind of cover how to do that a little bit. But essentially, these are all built off of a single effect, actually, and I've modified them. They're perfect for water as well. You know, so you don't have to do anything. They already have different effects for whether they explode on top of water or on land. And so I'll just show them a little bit here. Like, for example, that's one of the small blue effect. Here's the greenish one. And you can kind of see how I've put them together by colors. They don't all match, but yeah. And there you go. And here's an example of putting the point of these is that they're cumulative. So here's an example of what I mean. You know, see how you have a whole bunch of those going on? The effects just by themselves aren't that particularly impressive. I mean, to me they look really great, but where they really shine is where you have a lot of them going at once. And so now, because I have all these different colors and stuff, when I have a battle on Evo, it looks really, really cool because I have all this stuff going on. I really like the looks of that one. But yeah, here's, for example, that's just one of my generic ones. That's generic medium, I believe. Here's a medium red. You know, and here's another example of cumulative. This is my artillery tank. That's the large generic explosion. Pressure, here's another. And that's the white one. Speaking of cumulative effects, the lightning ones are a little bit different. For example, I actually piggybacked this one off of a Smoth an effect that Smoth originally did, which does these little electric things dancing around. So, you know, when the electricity hits the ground, it kind of electrifies the ground a little bit. That's the small one. That's the medium. This is the larger one. And yeah, you can kind of see that. And there's one of the larger generic ones. And okay, another thing I wanted to cover is sometimes people have asked me, like, you know, how do you get good looking flames? And basically, the way that I do it, you don't need to do it this way. In fact, you really don't need to go to all the trouble that I've gone here, but whatever. Okay, this is my flame tank. Now this, if you've seen this flame tank before, you might be thinking, oh, well, that looks different than it used to. Yeah, it does, because the original one obscured everything. Now, here's what I've done. Okay, first of all, the actual flame that comes out of here is just an effect, and I'll show that in a second, but basically that's just a regular CEG effect. The distortions are actually handled by LUPs, and the you see this stuff right around here where it's hitting and stuff, that's actually a separate hit effect, so it's these three separate things going on at once. And the flame tanks are the flamethrower is a little bit different in the fact that you don't attach it to the weapon through is it CEG tag or whatever, whichever one? Yeah, CEG tag. You don't do it through that. What you do is this actually. In fact, I brought this stuff up. Okay, for example, that flame is being emitted. Now this is actually in the SVN as eflametank.boss, and it's just emitting this effect with appropriate sleeps and everything in fire primary. So there's that, and then the actual flame effect is... if things will stop being slow here. Let's see. I actually have this ranged at 500. You can adjust the range by essentially adjusting the particle speed. You can turn that up or down, and that'll adjust your total range. It does take a little bit of tweaking to get it right. I suppose that's kind of the downfall of doing CEGs for flamethrowers, but essentially the actual flamethrower weapon that I use, it's actually an invisible laser, and one of the main reasons that I do that is because lasers are a lot easier to control, but also they lead the target. The flamethrowers in Spring do not lead their targets, which is a bit problematic, and in Evo it kind of causes some balance issues, because in Evo you're spending energy to shoot weapons and stuff, so if you're shooting a flamethrower that doesn't ever hit what it's aiming at, that's a problem. So yeah, essentially you set up a laser to do it as your weapon, and I suppose I'll show that as well. I figure this might be useful to somebody. Okay, and so we can actually look at its weapon here. It's just a laser cannon, and I use explosion generator, my burn black effect, and that's what causes all the little things when it hits. That's just this thing right here, and the whole point of this is to make it look realistic when it's actually burning something down. For example, let's pull this guy out here. Oops, apparently my artillery is going to get in on the fun too. But you see how that looks when it's actually hitting it. It's probably not exactly perfect, but it looks really good, so yeah. And there we go. Okay, so you don't have to go the whole route like I've done with the LUPS effects and everything. I've actually disabled the fire effect in the LUPS effect. I just kept the heat jitter. Basically, because the fire it's good, but I prefer doing it with CEGs. Plus, I feel like it's more efficient with regard to particle count. I could be wrong, but I feel like it is. And so, yeah, it's just a laser, and you can tell it not to collide, so that way it acts like a flamethrower. In Evo, it actually does collide with the first thing it hits, And so, you know, just whatever works best for you. Let's see, and I think, oops, didn't mean to open up that. I think that's basically it. Hope I didn't forget anything, but yeah, I'll just go through some of these, spawning them. Let's see, where was I? Purple. And you can change these really super easily. I mean, it's so super simple. You really don't need to know anything about CEGs. Green, blue. There we go. Yeah, and actually, I'll kind of show you a little bit how to change them. I've actually already commented it. Apparently, to some people, this commenting isn't too helpful, but basically, this is just for if you want to copy and paste it and just change it to do whatever you like. For example, this orange Nova Explode, that is the heat flash. So let's get something that uses that effect, like this guy. Okay. Okay, you see that big flash that comes up? You know, the big thing that just expands and then goes away real quick? That's this part. That's this part right here. And so you can adjust kind of the let's call it the shock wave. You can adjust essentially like the shock wave of the effect by doing that. Let's see. The center flare. This part's kind of hard to explain because it comes and goes so quick. But okay. If you'll notice in the middle of this explosion, and in fact, let me pull up the toolbox again. Makes it a little bit harder to show. Sorry, I have a bit of sniffles going on here. Let's see, let's make this bigger. And here we go. Okay. If you look directly in the center, there's a white flare that shows up there. That's what that is. And you can adjust it up and down. It does change how the effect looks. You know, all this stuff is cumulative. And so, yeah. Generally, the way I have them now, you can pretty much just exponentially ramp them up. Or, yeah, and so that way, you know, the effect should match if you make it larger. Okay, the orange explosion spikes, I thought that was pretty descriptive. Apparently not. But, okay, for example, let's spawn this effect again. You see the, like, little muzzle flares that come out here, the little orange ones? They come and go really quick. Hopefully you can see them there. In fact, you know what? The blue one makes it really apparent. Let's see. Small blue. Yeah. Let's do large blue. Or medium blue. Yeah. Okay, you see those white things? The flares that come off? Those are the explosion spikes. Now, you can make them larger. You can make them smaller. You can change how they expand. And, you know, that's what this does. This will make those spikes larger. That'll make the sprite of them larger. And this will adjust how far they spread out from the center. So yeah, that's really easy. And then the kicked up dirt, that is just, where's the one I was working with? That's just this dirt that gets kicked up around here. It actually uses a crap load of particles to spawn that, but they come and go so quickly that it doesn't hit. You can go semi-wild with it. For example, let's do this. Or, whoops. Oops. What did I type? There we go. Okay. Okay, what's the particle count down there? Yeah, so you can see, I mean, they come and go so quickly, and that's one of the reasons I designed them this way. is so that way it doesn't have a huge effect on performance. It can look great while still not killing. Okay. So essentially, you know, that's this right here, number of particles. Now, like I said in this comment, you can feel free to go kind of nuts there. Don't go too overboard, because at some point you get diminishing returns for the amount of particles you're using. So, you know, I mean, take it with a grain of salt. You know, you don't really need to go nuts with it. Okay. Now, this is one thing that is a little hard to understand right at first. Okay. The particle speed here will adjust how far they spread out horizontally. So you see how the dust is... Oops. You see how the dust spreads out from the center and then travels upwards? And in fact, if we do this right here, you can see it from this angle. Okay, see how it spreads out and then goes up? Okay, that particle speed, that adjusts how far it spreads out. So like that. And now what this does, the particle life spread, this adjusts essentially how long the particles live when they start traveling upward. Now they start actually traveling upward the moment they're spawned, but this adjusts how long they will stick around traveling upward. I don't really know a good way to explain that, so let me actually adjust that explosion. Should be this one here. Okay, let's set it to 100. Sure. Then we'll reload CEGs. Da-da. And Mike. Did I adjust the wrong thing? Yeah, I did. I adjusted the water. Yeah, don't get confused on that. That's for the water effect. This is for the land effect. Okay. And for a second there, I was like, wait a second. I'm not wrong about that. I know I'm not. I tested this. Okay. Here we go. See how long they last going up? So that controls that. I mean, you know, if you have a huge explosion going on, you know, like, let's say you were using it for a nuke or something. Of course, you wouldn't use dirt color for it, but, you know, whatever. Bam. There we go. And you get a clap. Yeah, so 1,000 lasts quite a while. Good to know, right? Okay, so let's put that back where it was. Alrighty. And there's not water in this map, so I won't really show you this. But basically, it's just a texture. It shows kicked up water instead of kicked up dirt. You can adjust these textures to whatever you like, you know. So feel free to make them your own. If you want to just, if you're happy with the way they look in Evo, just copy the files over and, you know, use them however you like. And then the last thing is ground flash. Now, there's two components to the ground flash. There's the flash size, and there's the circle growth. Now, what the flash size is, let's see. Let's get back on this. Actually, really like this song. Okay. Oh, whoops. Helps if you reload the CEGs. Okay, let's get out of there. Okay. That flash that's where the ground kind of glows a bit, that's flash size. Okay, so, you know what? Let's make flash size 500. Alright, this will illustrate it pretty well, I feel. Okay, there we go. Okay, you see how the whole area lights up? This whole area here? That's flash size. Okay. Now, circle growth is the texture. You know the shockwave texture that shows right here. You know, this expanding ring. That's circle growth. So essentially, you have to leverage these two together so that they make a cohesive effect. So, like for example, I've actually already done the measuring on these. They should be all right, but you know, feel free to adjust these however you like them. I mean, that's what they're for. These are supposed to be a basis for you to create your own effects, or just a basis for you to have great-looking effects in your game. You know, you can use them however you like, and that's the cool part of it. So, okay, let's do circle growth 50. Okay, alright, so let's reload this bad boy. And bam! Oh, wow. Woo! Nuke. So, yeah. Now, I've actually adjusted these so that they work well with a time to live of 20. I'm actually checking. Yeah, all these are time to live 20, and I actually adjusted it using circle growth as opposed to time to live. That way, they're a bit more together, I guess I'll say. But so, like, if we put time to live at 100. Oops, wrong one. There we go. Okay, you see the flash size and the circle growth, how long it's stuck around. So, you know, you may want to adjust these, you know, however it's appropriate for what you're trying to do. For these generic shell explosions and things like that, time to live of 20 is pretty much the perfect number for me. And okay, there's one more thing I wanted to cover. And like I said, I'm sorry for all the sniffles. I'm stocked up beyond belief for whatever reason. My oldest brother's kids are over here, and I think they got me a bit. Right. Intro, that would be in. I actually hadn't planned to cover this, but it strikes me that it would be a good thing to cover to show how I changed the LUPS effects. Here it is. Okay, now if you compare the LUPS effects of like 0K. 0K is a perfect example. If you compare the LUPS flame jitter, if you compare that file to mine, you'll find that I've done some semi-significant changes. Number one, I've changed how the range works. On the I think that weapon range is a much better way to adjust how long the effect lasts and lives and dies. Yeah, you can do that really any way you like. That's just the way I like to do it. You will also notice that I actually completely removed the flame itself, the flame that comes up. Like, so if you look at one of the flamethrower units in 0K, you'll see the flamethrower effect. I believe it uses LUPS only. So, that's a completely separate way of doing it. But essentially, I've just stripped this down to where it is only the jitter effect. And then, like I said, I made it so that it uses weapon range to determine how long it lives. And in order to, assuming that you have LUPS in your game, the only thing you need to do to make your unit use it is Lua Flame Shot Weapon, flame effect. You need to have this in your script. Now, if you're using Lua scripting, it'll be slightly different, but it's basically the same thing. I mean, just that little blurb will be different. That's what I'm trying to say. So yeah, that's pretty much how you do it. A lot of people have actually asked me how I got that effect. Basically, that is how. So far, out of all the flame effects I've seen, it's my favorite. I ended up spending a lot of time figuring out how to get the effect that I did in Evo. It was not easy playing around with all this stuff, but I think I finally got it to the place where I like it. Now, you can get all of this stuff in, if you go to source.evolutionrts.info will take you here. If you go to trunk, then evolution dev, and then game data explosions, you'll see all the generic effects here. Generic shell explosion blue. Ignore generic shell explosion crusher. That's a unit specific effect I was working on that I actually don't even use. But yeah, essentially it's kind of a pink variant of that stuff. But you've got blue, green, lightning, purple, red, white, and the basic one, which is just kind of orangish, you know, high explosive type shells. You know, your real generic stuff. And then the effect used for the flamethrower is flamethrower range 500. Now what I would do is I would actually make a separate file for each range you use, like flamethrower range 300, flamethrower range 100, blah 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 blah. Or you could put them all into one file. Doesn't really matter. I just prefer to have separate files. I think that it's easier to find them that way generally. But yeah, and then just particle speed. Just adjust that particle speed and, you know, make it match. You may have to fiddle with particle life a little bit. Probably won't, but you know, just make it match your range, and wherever you're happy with it. The effect used for the hit is called Burn Black, and that is this file's slightly messier. Yeah, that's right here. This little blob right here. It's in burn.tdf. And so there you go. I think I've covered just about everything. Let me know if I missed any relevant bits. This video is way longer than I planned on it to be, but hopefully it helps some of you guys that aren't that familiar with CEGs. I know some of the more prolific coders, like, or Lua scripters or whatever, aren't necessarily that experienced with CEGs. I actually learned pretty much everything I know off of Smoth and using Smoth's vastly awesome effects for Gundam in Evo, and yeah, basically I use them as a bit of a launch pad for myself to learn to make my own effects and stuff. So hopefully these generic effects can kind of help you make your own effects. They're pretty easy to modify. I mean, like for example, let's say if Z wanted to put a new effect in Kernel Panic, he could actually make this real retro pretty easy. You know, like for example, putting blocky, you know, the kind of retro blocky explosion smoke texture, you know, for the kicked up dirt thing, and then you could actually take out the ground flash if you wanted to. You know, that may or may not work well with Kernel Panic. You know, and you can change all of these things so that they just kind of work however the way you want. And I've tried to make it as simple as possible. And also keep in mind that if you want to add on these, you can just copy and paste them. You know, give that section a new name, of course. You know, so we could have red explosion spikes, and then we could adjust these values and basically double down on it. So, you know, there's sky's kind of the limit on what you can do, and hopefully this has been helpful. And this is Foreboding Angel. Feel free to ask me in the forums if you have any questions. I figured I'd make a thread with this video link, so yeah.